Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome back to another video. Now, listen, people. Normally, we do a preview just before each and every game we play, whether it's in the Conference League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, and Premier League. So we are playing tomorrow morning. Well, if you're from where I am, it'll be tomorrow 4:45 a.m. Now, I'm not gonna do a preview for this one. I'm not gonna do a preview, and for the reason being, I don't know our opponent, and I didn't have time to go over them and just study them and try to understand how they play, how they attack, how they defend, their formation, their players. Listen, this is Conference League. If we were playing in the Europa League or the Champions League, I probably would have done my research much better than I did this one. Actually, I didn't do any research, to be fair. I mean, all I can do is a review, after watching the game, obviously seeing how they play and how they set up. And at the end of the day as well, this is Conference League for Chelsea. I'm expecting nothing than a win. So I'm not going to waste my time trying to study the opponent, but rather I'm actually going to react to what Simon Jordan said about Chelsea. Now, if you don't know Simon Jordan, he's a guy that obviously a businessman. He goes on Talksport. He has a couple of shows on Talksport as well. And he's actually one of the people that I do agree on every time I go into the English media. Like, you know how much I hate the English media because I always feel like they say a lot of rubbish. But Simon Jordan, each and every time I listen to him on Talksport, he always says something that I do agree with. Even if I don't agree with it, there's some sense to it. There's no much of emotions like any other guys, like Jamie O'Hara, and obviously I'm not gonna Darren Band, and I mean they do say some weird things, at times. But my favorite person on that show is obviously Jason Kanti because he's a Chelsea supporter. Even then, with him, I don't agree with a lot of things he said because I always feel like sometimes he say things just because he's on the radio. But with Simon Jordan, he's somewhat of a guy that I can actually sit and listen to. Now, they were talking about obviously the Premier League and how obviously the table's looking in terms of the first, second, and third, or blah blah blah. And if you've watched Talksport before the season started, Simon Jordan was one of the people that were defending Todd Boehly and Ekbali since the day they took over Chelsea. Because from him, he always looks at things from a different perspective. Now, we as fans, we might not look at it that way because, again, we are too emotional and too invested into the club that we always think that, it's all about just making the fans happy by doing, by them doing what we want. But you got to remember that these people, they're also business people and they're looking into making money into this sort of business, right? Chelsea Football Club is a business. Now, Simon Jordan understands that very well because he used to own Crystal Palace. So going back to my point, he's one guy who's been supporting, the takeover in the sense of he could see what they were trying to do, whether it's just buying players when they were young, selling them obviously later in the later stages, as well as just the way that Chelsea has been run. He obviously had some things that he said that he didn't like, but I think the majority of what he used to say, what he's still saying today, is just backing Chelsea that they are going to do well in the future. Now, nobody knows how long the future can be. It could be this season, it could be next season, it could be in 5 years. Look at Arsenal as well. They still believe in the process, even though it hasn't been much of a success, but obviously there's a gradual improvement there. So Simon Jordan has been, in support of Chelsea and whatever we're doing. And yesterday I was listening to him talking about Chelsea, and he said that Man City and Arsenal are going to fight for third place, and Liverpool and Chelsea are going to fight for the title. Now, yes, of course, I would like people to give that much positive to my club. But first, let me say this. I'm not going to listen to anyone who's now talking about the title contenders for Chelsea or putting Chelsea in the conversation, because when we were doing our business during the summer, everyone was very critical of Chelsea. They were saying we're just buying players. We don't have a direction. We don't know what we're doing. We have players like Nicholas Jackson who are not good enough. We have players like Cole Palmer who don't turn up in big games, blah, 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 blah. Now, do not change now. You do not change 12 games in, keep your stance, stick to your points. Do not try to, because I've heard people saying that if Chelsea don't win the league now, it's a failure, or if they don't finish in the top four, it's a failure. Now I kind of agree to that extent. Why? Because I have obviously standards I set for my team. But at the end of the day, they're saying it in the sense that because we bought too many players and we spent over $1 billion. Now, for me, it's not so much about the money that we spend because I know how we spend the money. Not every player we bought is playing for Chelsea right now. Most of the, obviously the players we bought them from their club and they're still playing for their clubs anyway. The intention is obviously to sell them later on, or they can join Chelsea in the next couple of years or two. So me saying that Chelsea should finish in the top four is nothing to do with how much money we spend. It's also so much like, just my standards as my club, because I want to go back into the Champions League. Now, let's go back to what Simon Jordan said. Let me say this here. Chelsea are in a title race, right? Chelsea are in a title race because when you look at us, we are what? 9 points off Liverpool and 1 point off City on second position. Now, you can argue that we're in a title race, right? But being in a title race doesn't always mean you're going to win it. Like, you can be in the race. You can be in the race. But are you guaranteed a win? I don't think so. So Chelsea being in a title race, I can agree to that. But are we actually going to win the Premier League? Now, that's where the big question mark goes or comes in. I don't think we're going to win the league because, like I said in my yesterday video, I don't think we have what it takes to cross over that line of then winning the Premier League. Because you look at the players that are in Liverpool team right now. Liverpool has got experienced players like, from the Van Dijks, Mo Salah, Alisson. You're talking about even players like Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yes, he might be young, but he's experienced enough to know what it takes to win the Premier League because he has done it, under Jurgen Klopp. So then you look at Chelsea's players. We have Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson. We have Christopher Nkunku. We have, Sanchez in goal. We have Fofana in defense and Colwill and Malo Gusto. These people haven't actually won something big enough to know what it takes to get it over the line. So that's one of my critics when it comes to Chelsea in terms of like us winning the league. I always feel like we don't have that guy or the guys that we can sort of like depend on to say, okay, listen, get us over the line. Now, some might say Reece James have won something in the past. Obviously, he won the Premier League, the Club World Cup, and I think the Super Cup as well under Tuchel. Now, that might be the case, but again, we're talking about someone that doesn't even play. Like, if you're going to impact the game, you have to be on the pitch. You cannot impact the game on the sideline. You're not a coach. Even then, a coach can't really impact the game being on the sideline. So when I look at that, I'm thinking, all right, if Reece James was playing week in, week out, or at least 20 games in a season, I'll be like, okay, he can be much of an influence to the team to a point where we could actually challenge a title. But because he doesn't play, even when you look at players like Ben Chilwell, yes, of course, they were within the winning team when we won the Champions League, World Cup, and all that. But again, they don't play. The players that do play, I think only guy who plays in a Chelsea team right now, we've actually won something, it's Enzo Fernandez. And even him himself, I don't think he has what it takes. Yes, of course, he won the World Cup and blah, blah, blah. But again, it was because of the likes of the Lionel Messi. And yes, of course, he probably did something in that Argentine team. But I don't think Enzo Fernandez can be considered a guy that can take us to the Holy Grail, at least not for now. All right. So we don't have what it takes to get it over the line. So this is why I'm saying, or this is why I think Chelsea are far away from winning the Premier League. Now, we could challenge. Yeah, challenging is no problem, right? Like Arsenal have been challenging for the past 2 seasons, but they haven't won it because they didn't have that guy who can get them over the line. They didn't have those players that had done it in the past. Yes, you can argue that maybe Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus was in the Man City team when they were winning, but then again, how much were they playing? It wasn't as much as they're now playing in the Arsenal team right now. So, and again, it takes more than just one player to get it over the line. Maybe not, but you need at least 2 or 3. Like, if you look at the Man City team, you look at the Liverpool team, you're gonna get those guys. So yes, I do agree that we can challenge for the title, or we can be in the title race conversation. Oh, at least now we are, because we're third position, 9 points off Liverpool and 1 point off City. But to then say we are going to win the league, that's a bit of a stretch for me. But listen, It could happen. It could happen. Remember the year Leicester City won the league? They were not even that like crazy good. Sometimes, some teams might fail up. Liverpool, you never know. They might go on a bad run in the second half of the season. Man City might still maintain this bad run form that they are, or they might even get better, but not to an extent where, they'll be better than Chelsea. And at the same time as well, you look at teams like Arsenal as well. They're not really the Arsenal of 2 seasons ago. So it could actually happen that, we end up winning the league. I'm just don't want to bet on it, at least not now, because I feel like it is too early. But if it happens, hey, I'll be here to celebrate it. But yeah, man, that's what Simon Jordan said in his sort of like argument. Is saying that Chelsea have a better squad. Maresca has been doing good. Man City not doing well. Liverpool again, they're in the Champions League as well. So, and they're still in the Carabao Cup and FA Cup. So they might, to some degree, end up dropping points. And Chelsea, remember, we're out of the Carabao Cup. The FA Cup, yes, we're in, but it hasn't even started. And the Conference League, we have enough squad depth to play different players week in and week out, in which we've been doing well. Now, when you look at teams like Liverpool and Arsenal, maybe not City, but even City, because they've got injuries as well, they are not in a position where we are right now. So I really, really, really think that there's a chance for us to sort of like push, teams like City and Liverpool, maybe an Arsenal as well. But to then say we are winning the league, it is too early. Give me 20, 25 games, and then maybe let us go on like a crazy run, because our upcoming fixtures, they're much more favorable, to your point, where we could actually be in the conversation by December. No, let me say January, February. But yeah, man, this is I just wanted to comment on. Now going back to the game we're gonna play for Conference League. Again, I'm just expecting Chelsea to win and probably rest a couple of players. And I would like to see Pedro Neto come back. Maybe he needs a bit of a run before going to the Aston Villa game, because we're gonna need him there. But other than that, people, yeah, man, I just wanted to say, yes, of course, we as Chelsea fans, we want to win the league. That's for sure. But I think let's not get over ourselves right now, because it is a bit too early. But yeah, people, let's see how we go. Let's see how we go. I think we started the season quite all right. We just need to maintain that and actually start picking up, points against big teams, because we've not been picking up good points against big teams. I think the only big teams we've picked up points on was Newcastle, but then even them, they just lost to West Ham. They're not really, really good themselves. Arsenal, we picked up a point. Liverpool, we drop points. City, we drop points. Yeah, I'm looking into the Tottenham game and the Aston Villa game to really, really pick up the points. But yeah, people, this is that's just what I wanted to speak about. I'll see you guys on the review for the press conference league game against Heidenheim, if I'm pronouncing it right. Now, my prediction for that game would be, I would say 4-1. Why? Because it's Chelsea. They're gonna concede anyway, and we're playing away from home. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. So yeah, man. Yeah, people, make sure you do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.